Welcome everyone, and thank you for your time today for our webinar featuring Forrester, named Succeeding Today with Digital First Initiatives using Devops Practices. We have Jared and Diego Lo Giudice. So before we begin, all of you will be on mute for the event. So if you have any question, or can you please type in the box in the control panel if you can hear us. So please check your speakers and WebEx audio settings first. If you have any questions during the session, please submit them on the Q&A bar in your WebEx dashboard, and we will answer all of them at the end of the event. And of course, a recording of the full webinar will be put up online, and we will send you an email. So the outline is Succeeding Today with Digital First Initiatives using Devops Practices. After, it will be Devops Platform for the Evolving Enterprise from Gerd, and then all the Q&A. So let me introduce you Diego, which is the Vice President, Principal Analyst serving Application Development and Delivery Professionals. He partners with Forrester, global application leaders, and is leading an expert on SDLC processes and practices. Today, he's covering topics such as agile development, agile and lean transformation, agile testing practices and tools, DevOps, of course, and Diego also covers software delivery metrics, artificial intelligence, and open source governance. And then we have Gerd. He is an experienced IT professional. He started as a mainframe system programmer, and for the past 25 years, he has been working for software vendors. During the past 15 years, he specialized in application and service lifecycle management. So Diego, all yours.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody, and good morning to those that are in the States. So, well, first of all, I want to thank Clarive for inviting me for this presentation. And so, what I'm going to be talking about is, you all have demanding customers and also aggressive competitors that are basically, either forcing you to play catch up fast on digital, or you might be disrupting, you might be leading this. But in any event, this is basically meaning that you as an organization are looking to improve your digital customer experience, and this is getting very much linked to DevOps and Agile. And the reason is because software makes, it's software that makes a business digital successful. So in other words, DevOps and Agile practices are here to make, are enabling customers to become more responsive to market demands and removing waste, introducing new technologies and practices that we will take a look at today. So in this webinar, that's what I want to do. I want to discuss some of the key success factors for digital initiatives and basically the DevOps practices that some of the leading organizations that I get to talk to are using, and hopefully there are some good takeaways for you. So, it really is right now the customers are empowered more than ever, and there are markets, of course, where this is more aggressively happening versus others, but it's generally happening almost everywhere, especially when products are largely commoditized and customer experience becomes the main differentiation in that space. And in our markets, and today, the way things are going is the cost of switching for a customer is quite low, and so they find a better user experience. You know what? I'm going to change bank account. I'm going to change bank because I like using, and it's easier for me to leverage the services of this other bank that is giving me and offering me a great user experience. That's kind of the thought process that people go through. So, what are the success factors for digital initiatives when tied to us as IT folks, and especially delivery and development and delivery folks? So these are the 7 ones that I'm going to share with you today. Measuring customer outcomes and experiences. It's around organization. It's around measurement of minimum viable products and how we put together releases. how we build and how we pull together highly automated delivery pipelines. Of course, architecture has to be part of the conversation and employing supply chain principles. So let's start one by one. So the first point is about, well, in digital initiatives, organizations that are going through digital initiatives are seriously changing the way they innovate. They go through this idea process, we call it in Forrester, which is, starting, especially when they're building, innovating and building, for example, mobile applications. First step is to kind of really understand the context of our clients and identify different types of personas in that context and the outcomes that they need, and then go through, user experience design is another huge big trend that we're seeing, and so creating that design experience is another key step, the next step, I would say. And then we go off, engineering and developing and delivering, and what we deliver and what we deliver to the business and to our customers. Then there's a lot of analytics and understanding of application performance management and understanding what's happening in production to kind of see if what we're delivering was the right idea or if we need to tweak it. And this is a very iterative and new way of developing products. It's bringing actually product in many end user organizations that use to build and think about applications and projects. So another very important aspect in all this is really the concept of feedback. And I'm going to be spending a few slides on this concept because feedback is really changing the way we develop software. The reason why we're interested in feedback, and that feedback is getting that feedback directly from the users that are using our solutions, that are experiencing the application itself, is important, because if we are using the feedback, we're leveraging feedback from the people that are actually using our services, our products, our applications, we're going to be generating less waste, because we know directly from the people that are having that customer experience whether something is right, wrong, good or bad, rather than having someone in between determining and trying to think about what a good idea might be, or what a good idea for our user might be. It's going to be lowering, of course, costs, because if you eliminate waste, it's obviously going to happen, and customers are going to be more happier. And that has a big impact on the overall economic value of what we deliver. What does it mean, understanding and having a better context for user experience, for customer experience? Well, it really means, and this is kind of an example, anonymized out of what some of our clients are doing, is understanding the customer means having a good, understanding of the profile. It means leveraging lots of information, which is handy to us, which might be because the client is spending time on our website. There is social information. There is data that comes from the mobile phone, where we have a lot of context these days through by using mobile phones as well. But it's keeping all that historical information, that real-time information that our clients can give us, and we've got many opportunities to grab that data and create what we call personas, the different types of users that have different needs and live in a different context and need different outcomes. That's becoming a core part of the way new software is developed. And what's been happening is we also see that the traditional way that we've been building software is just not really working. I mean, we all know that 30 to 40% of the requirements that we write, that we try to implement in projects, is usually either not implemented, are wrong requirements, or don't get implemented at all. This is just a simple case here showing being Microsoft, but I can tell you this is quite, generally speaking, it resonates with many clients. When coming up with ideas and requirements and new applications and features, a third of the ideas don't really, only a third of the ideas are really working and improving the target metric, the improvement, the objective that we wanted to reach. 60% is kind of ineffective, or actually even brings us farther from the idea. And so fast feedback is the way to fix this and to actually get to eliminate that waste that we were talking about. So basically, the second point is more around organization, right? And really, there's not too much to say. We've been beating the head on this for years now with Agile and DevOps, which is we do need integrated product teams, full stop. It's cross-functional teams, dedicated team members that don't work on multiple projects, but one project at a time, and that are, you know, cross-skilled, that are empowered. These are all lean concepts, right? And that are self-managing, that have shared goals between development, between operations, between testing, between business, and shared, you know, shared goals in improving the outcomes that we're looking for. And the team really works end to end on capturing the initial idea and is responsible for delivering it, deploying it, and even fixing problems when these are actually generated. So the concept of a cross-functional or a multidisciplinary integrated product team, I think, is becoming more and more evident to many organizations. And I know this is a big issue for many because it means reorganizing, perhaps. But the ones that are organizing their teams in this way with a product mindset and an organization around that are the ones that are moving faster compared to others. There's a third and fourth point. I kind of go hand in hand, and so I group them together, and I'm just going to say a few things around this. It's the concept of minimum viable product and what goes into a release. I actually get this question from my clients often. So how big does the release need to be, or what is a minimum viable feature that I can deliver and deploy? Or what is a minimum viable release? And so, you know, this is just a qualitative solution, which is, you know, I don't have benchmark data around this, but I see that organizations that have been moving more towards continuous delivery kind of look at this as a release delivering at least, you know, one outcome per persona. So you've got more personas that you're serving, you know, one outcome should go to one persona. That's kind of a rule of thumb. And if you do have multiple personas, of course, you might want to parallelize and speed up work. Well, then that means you might have multiple teams working on the, you know, this is a bigger project. But the concept is really that, you know, minimum viable release, one outcome per single persona. Now, if you're really doing continuous delivery on smaller features, then that is different, because you don't even have the concept of release. But that's going even a step further. The next point is, and this is getting a little bit closer to technology, if you will, right? It's using lean as a concept. One important concept of lean is this value stream mapping. And what you're doing with value stream mapping is it's a process. It's a very simple and interesting process, which I think graphically makes you shows you very intuitively what's going on in the process that you have for in this case, it's going from customer request through, you know, analyzing the request, writing the requirement down, design, developing, building, and going down to deploy, right? Now that we call that a value stream, which is a process, if you will, the process people that are involved in basically turning that customer request generated up here down into something that gets deployed. And when you do value stream mapping, what it does is it helps you identify the different steps. This is not what's written in your methodology book. This is what's actually happening in the, you know, in the ground, between the teams. And you can find out basically how long things are really taking versus how long they're supposed to be taking. But how long for example, creating an idea and submitting that idea, the process time for it might be 1 day, but you might find out that it takes actually 2 days to move to the next step. Just as you might find out that to develop a specific design spec, the developer might need, you know, 7 days of process time, but it actually takes 30 days before that code goes from a business analyst into the, you know, into the development integration and into the next stage of of perhaps the integration of building, it might take 3 days. Or when you're going to a test stage, you know, you're moving it to from testing to the staged environment, it really takes, you know, it could take anywhere, you know, 5 days of work, but it's taking 40 days to actually go from that step to the next step. And what you find out at the end is that, you know, the whole process took something like 123 days. This is an example again, right? But the process time, or in other words, the time it should have taken is 39. This is a big eye-opener for managers and executives when they see this, because it means there's a lot of waste. And so this is a process for helping you identifying that waste and uncovering bottlenecks. And that's kind of the first step that needs to be done, because then the next thing you can do is, A, you can just simply eliminate those steps, or you can automate them. And so, you know, in order to automate those steps, you need something like this continuous delivery pipeline that you can see here. This is the, you know, everything that you would need in a perfect world to support a DevOps, a true DevOps driven delivery process. It's clear that you've got, you know, the different roles involved, from business to QA to developers and operations, and DevOps really is tearing the wall down between those different stakeholders. And you really, you know, and then you have these pipeline concepts where software is pushed. You know, you have the idea, you define it, there's a backlog maybe sitting on an agile project management tool, and then you move on to do to build code, to create code, to commit code, do some maybe smoke test, and then you do a build, and you do unit testing, and you do all the static code analysis and peer code review, and you just, you know, basically all that there's an entire process that we know very well up to doing to creating the release, where there's lots of opportunity for automation. And you can see those automation points here, from test automation activities to release automation activities, and then including and embedding in the process using analytics to kind of improve the process itself, but actually provide that feedback to the design, to the initial idea, so that we can end up putting that addition, you know, requirement, that adjustment in the backlog, and then going off and doing it again. So the DevOps, you know, continuous delivery pipeline is quite a complex. It requires an interesting chain of tools. I just finished a technology radar, which is kind of a positioning of technologies over the next 3-5 years around continuous software delivery pipelines, and there's 17 technologies that are somewhat involved in creating a continuous delivery pipeline, from artifact repositories to testing tools to test data management tools, service utilization, and build tools, and release automation tools, and analytic tools, and so forth. So that's a very important, you know, that is a very important success factor, is building this continuous delivery pipeline for DevOps. But, you know, there's no real improvement that can happen if we don't have an adequate architecture, and this is quite often a big impediment to becoming even more agile, and I would say also DevOps. And so what organizations do when they're when you're going through this digital transformation and trying to become more agile and more DevOps oriented, there is homework to do on the architecture, and you might already be doing that, or your architecture team might be doing that. But basically, you know, there's a lot of opportunity out there to leverage different sources of existing components, from open source frameworks. There's cloud platform services that we can use. There's commercial application platforms. There's third-party services and proprietary services, and really that, you know, and then you really just need to assemble that application. Should be assembling those components together, but to do that, it really does need an architectural approach. Today, you might hear more about microservices. In the past, it was service-oriented architecture, APIs. You know, that's the key important point of introducing service-oriented microservices and APIs, is to create this loosely coupling, so that you can easily compose things, and you can version You can have services that are versioned, and you have interfaces and APIs that are basically decoupling, right, between different components. And so therefore, if there is a change to make in one place, it doesn't necessarily have to affect other areas in the architecture. And this is, this level of flexibility is really important in order to truly become agile and be able to break up application requirements into smaller chunks and deliver and push those into production in smaller chunks. And so breaking down and making, smaller batches, smaller release batches, it's not going to be easy to do if we've got siloed architectures, right? So microservices in loosely coupling architectures are a key important aspect. And then last but not least, is really putting in place, what we call, which resembles exactly from the lean concept and, lean manufacturing, if you will, a supply chain, using some and leveraging some of the supply chain principles to manage all those different components. Because now really what you have is there's a whole set of smaller components, and you still need to have, they still need to be managed. And so, using some of those traceability that is needed in order to have control of all the artifacts and who they belong to, and track where those components are coming from with artifact repositories is becoming another key and important issue. So let me wrap up before I hand over back the presentation. So in other words, on one side, in order to drive faster delivery cycles and to respond and to have a response, great responses to digital and to customer experience, we have to use customer insight by having a great understanding and context of the client, understanding what the client wants, why it wants it, form hypotheses that can be then tested and can be measured to see how they're getting us closer to the goal that we want to reach, to the outcome that we want to build, measure the results and feedback back into the demand of this continuous delivery pipeline where we are through which we are delivering code. But to do that, there's also some homework that we need to do, right? We can reduce and waste. We could reduce waste, which is coming usually in the form of handoffs, and therefore simplifying process that is not needed and necessary. You have to have the courage to do that. And at the same time, there's a big opportunity to automate a lot of those steps, right? And this is in order to reduce the costs and to increase the speed of that is needed in the continuous delivery pipeline. And basically, as we do that, using and leveraging analytics that will help us understand how we're doing, how we can improve the process, and actually how we can improve the actual outcome that we are building for our clients. And so analytics is, as you might hear and see, are becoming kind of the business intelligence in software delivery and development. So basically, that's all I wanted to share with you. And I guess I'll pass it back, and we'll be here for questions later.
Thank you very much, Diego. Gerrit, I'm passing you the ball. So all yours.
Thank you, Sarah. Let me share my desktop. Here we go. So welcome everyone. Today I want to present to you Clarive as a company and Clarive as a tool. We have Clarive, our tool is called Clarive, and the company, it's the same as the company's name. Clarive stands for an offering of in-application delivery at the speed of business. What we mean with this, that we apply lean principles to the application delivery process to enable the delivery of business value at a speed that is acceptable for the business. Because that's quite important, it has to be accepted by the business. Clarive provides a Devops platform for the evolving enterprise, and this is the scope, in fact, of this presentation. when we go in the market and we talk to our customers, we talk to our prospects, we have found like these 9 challenges that we have grouped into 3 areas. An end-to-end focus is what our customers and prospects are looking for. Automation, collaboration, coordination with insights, that's what they're looking for. And they're looking also to integrate for governance and audit, and they don't want to do that particularly with rip and replacing other tools. They might want to have their existing pipeline, as Diego described it, integrated into a tool so they can do an end-to-end process from the inception of a change, from the demand, from the business for a change, from an incident or a defect, up till the delivery into production and the physical deployment to whatever platform these customers are having. And all of that with measurement, with metrics, and with dashboarding, so that we have that insight from the beginning of our process to the end of our process. So going back to Diego's presentation a bit, I heard things like transitioning application architecture, transitioning end-to-end delivery process, evolving development methods, loosely coupled architecture. And I have also raised some questions like fast feedback. If you have multiple tools, how will you have the possibility to have that fast feedback? You can only have that if they are well integrated into your delivery pipeline. Value stream mapping, end-to-end insight. When I'm looking at Clarive, we have the value added and the non-value added statuses that we have in our tool and that we have in our dashboarding, and the OPE score that we just give you to give an idea of how your value added time is doing towards the non-value added time. When we have these automated delivery pipelines that we need across all platforms, they should be across all platforms, and we should have not that many pipelines defined. They should be quite agnostic, and they should react on, they should have variables for every environment that we can set, so that we can reuse these pipelines for our deployments, for our builds, and that we are sure that they work as they did in our development, that they work for our QA, our pre-production and production environment. So looking at the picture on the right, you see Clarive in fact taking your development initiatives towards the operational deployment, and on that way just integrating the tools that you have currently in-house. So as the analysts say, and seen at our customer base, organizations are transitioning their IT architecture as well as their delivery processes to better maximize business value and deliver faster. Most organizations are, however, in transitioning from a situation described on the left to the situation described on the right. What we say is not everyone is there, and not everyone is having already that loosely coupled architecture in place. They still have the highly interconnected architecture based on a waterfall model for development, based on the top-down release management, and they want to evolve and move towards that loosely coupled architecture with agile-based development. But that's where we want to help them, because what we see in the market for this DevOps tools, that many of them already consider the prospective customers as being on the right side, and they don't consider the left side. And with Clarive, we want to consider both, and we want to give a solution for both of the initiatives or both of the ways that people are working. So we want organizations to start now and increase automation and sharing for the delivery of all their applications, regardless whether they are based on the left or the right. We want to be able to provide ultimate sourcing flexibility by supporting every platform for mainframe, cloud, mobile, open systems, Internet of Things, ERP, and whatever is on the market. So let's have a closer look at the left and the right side of the spectrum. Traditionally, application delivery can be described as top-down release management. In this approach, a release takes a number of projects, more complex changes managed as a project, and smaller change requests from different applications. The release coordinated by release management and authorized by change management then follows a specific flow to get realized and deployed. And this is, in fact, the more traditional way, the waterfall and the top-down release management. On the next slide, we see what I have on the right side, and that is typically more developer-led, more suitable for forced and continuous delivery. Development teams build new features and fix these issues. Once ready, they bundle the revisions into a change set or a release, or call it a sprint, and this set becomes deployed onto various environments, following a defined release path until it is deployed into production. So this is with the more loosely coupled architectures, easier to do than with the highly interconnected ones. But what we see in the market is that, in fact, there is no company that has either bottom-up, top-down. We see a hybrid release management. We see a combination of both, and we see that these organizations in evolution or in DevOps transition, they have a hybrid release management approach, where some components are developed using a bottom-up approach, while other components still are managed top-down. At some point, the ready change sets are bundled into a release, and they follow the process. And that is exactly what we want to support with our tool. We want to give a portal to these organizations that have to combine and that are currently evolving from that top-down to that bottom-up release management. Okay. So, how does such a DevOps platform for an evolving enterprise look like? What are the requirements for the components? First, such a platform should allow all stakeholders to share, collaborate, and exchange assets. The key ones are development, QA, and operations. Second, that platform should support every available platform so that sourcing strategies can be changed when needed without having to change the DevOps solution. A DevOps platform should support automation, coordination, collaboration, integration, governance and insight, often needed in audits as well, across all platforms and all stakeholders. This by managing the lifecycle of the applications or the server code, the provisioning code, as well as the deployment code. And I call it provisioning code. I call it deployment code because we manage the deployment as code. We reuse our pipelines. We are sure that we are deploying to each environment in a consistent way. It has been proven in the previous environments that this was the good way of working, and we want to reuse that in every deployment that we do. So Clarive is the DevOps platform supporting the above for the evolving enterprise. And it does this without forcing a rip and replace. That's what you see here. We just want to integrate with those tools that are currently in place. If you have a Jira, if you have a ServiceNow, if you are using a build tool, if you have a quality center or a Sonar for your static quality, we want to integrate with these tools. We have no intention to rip and replace these tools. And it provides, in that way, insight to all stakeholders looking at processes from the end-to-end perspective. We believe automation is one of the key strengths of the Clarive single tool platform. It allows you to manage the deployment across platforms and across environments to be managed from a single rule. And you can see here that rule, or part of that rule at least. And in such a rule, we manage not only the deployment logic, but also pre and post deployment logics. So we can prepare things to be deployed, and after they have been deployed, we can update CMDB and stuff like that. That means that we can start from the code itself. We build it, we test it, we can integrate the automated testing into the pipeline rules. We deploy it, and we perform the cleanup and update the CMDB entries, all in a single rule. So we manage different environments because we use environment variables. So if you look here, you see that in that rule, we treat every nature that might be in-house, whether it's a WAR, a JAR, whether it's mainframe or it's in an Amazon deployment. And for each of the environments, specific to the environment, we just have variables like for the common servers that we deploy to. We have 4, or for the production we might have 10 servers that we just include that all in our ruling tool, in our process to deploy, and we do that with the same rule for every environment. So Clarive not only allows you to define the deployment strategy within a rule, it also allows you to define the rollback strategy associated with this rule at the same time. When we are building a rule, we already indicate what should be done in case we have to roll back, which steps have to be rerun in rollback mode. So that's already something that we include when we are creating our deployment rule, that we might have to roll back, and so we include already there our strategy for a rollback. And all of these rules are under lifecycle support. So we version these rules, we track changes to these rules, we can also roll back our own rules, and we keep also track of what has been deployed with what version of what rule. Okay. So having some examples here of the tool. We have team collaboration and sharing. Well, the tool is working based on a completely open model that you can define for your own use. The tool gives you an overview at any time of where in the life cycle, where in the process, in what status you have your topic categories. In this case, releases, we call it topic categories. So we have that instant visibility into the status. We have that standard coordinated processes, and we integrate, so we don't have the repair, we integrate tools like here you see an example of an integration defined for ServiceNow, where we have the mapping of the fields and the mapping of the statuses for ServiceNow. We bring coordination and collaboration across teams and tools. We have the possibility to define multi-level approvals, state gauge controls, so we can just generate a number of approvals needed, send out emails to the stakeholders, they approve the release, and once we get all the approvals, we will deploy the release. We got release window management, means that for each environment we can define calendars. We can define calendars for environments, for applications, and for servers. And that way we can just find the best time that fits to deploy. And we have here the environment planning, where we can see when, what release is supposed to be in QA production, or plan to be in QA, plan to be in production. We see that in a roadmap format or in a calendar format. These are just some examples of information that we can provide with the tool. And then we have the dynamic real-time end-to-end insight in status and activity. So we always see here where we are, what relations we have, what a release is having as sub topics. We have that this gives us the impact and dependency analysis. So we see if we have a release, what it will touch, which will be the applications, which will be the servers. We have the lean metrics and dashboards, like incidents that are in the non-value added time, so they are waiting, no one is working on it. We have the OPE score, so that's comparing the value added to the non-value added. And we can also detect bottlenecks here because we are working with a single database. We can replay, in fact, what has happened during a period of time, and we can see bubbles when some topics are stuck in a certain state, and when a certain state has too big a bottleneck, we can just go back and take action on that. That state is blocking. It can be that it's the person that has the role to work with items in that state that is blocking, or we don't have enough. So we can, people that are working at that moment, so we can make decisions on that. And that's all information that we get out of the tool when we are in the process of bringing a change to the production environment. So how we differentiate, well, we have the release and deploy domain-specific language, and we have the conditional steps in there. We have error trapping. We can include manual steps, ask for approvals after we have paused the deployment. We have forking in our deployment rules. We have semaphores. We have rollback that we take into consideration. We do that for every platform, whether it's an open system, it's COS, it's cloud, it's ERP, mobile, for any language. We do that for databases. So that's where we bring that to the market, where we really have the handshake between ALM and Ops, so that it's in the operations and the application world, and we bring value for both of these teams in a single, pragmatic, highly flexible, semantic-rich tool. And with that, I want to conclude. Clarive is based for the EMEA headquarters in Madrid, for the development in Madrid. International headquarters are based in Antwerp, and we have opened an office in the US. We have a representation in the UK, and for the rest of the world, we are dealing with prospects through our partner network. And I think we can open up for questions now.
Thank you so much, Gert. Thank you so much, Diego. Well, I do have a question right here, which is, hold on. Do we need to enter every change request in Clarive if we already have change requests in ServiceNow and even defects in Jira?
Oh, I guess that's one for me.
Okay, yeah, I think so.
No, the answer is no. Let me explain you why. So, as I said, we don't want to rip and replace, and we don't want to re-enter data into our tool if it already exists in another tool. So what we will do in that case is we have these bidirectional integrations with tools like Jira or ServiceNow or Service Desk. And once, let's take the example of a change request in ServiceNow, the change request in ServiceNow gets created. It goes through its process in ServiceNow, and once it's ready to go into the development phase and the deployment phase and the deployment pipeline, we will just at that moment create from within ServiceNow a change request in Clarive, and it will go through the Clarive workflow lifecycle, and we will define milestone stages in all statuses in our tool that we will reflect back to the originating tool. So when someone starts working on a change request, it gets to the status assigned or in dev, for instance, we will report back to ServiceNow that it is in progress. When it gets deployed, we will report back that it gets deployed, and that's so you don't have to type in manually or copy any change request or defect from another tool. When it gets created in the other tool with the integration that we build based on web service and web service rules in our tool, we will just create that in Clarive automatically.
Okay, thank you very much, Gert. I have another question, and I am sure this one is for you as well. So this is one of the attendees is saying that they have to support mainframe, databases, Java build tools, delivery tools, and QA tools. And he's asking, two questions. First one is, what APIs does Clarive already have? And second one is, are there any new APIs planned for the future?
We are developing integrations with tools every day. What integrations we have and what is available is already on our website under integrations.
Okay.
So there are too many to have them all sum up here. Our integrations are based on web services, on web requests, on Java. We have a JavaScript API. What we do is, when we have developed an integration with a tool that is usable for multiple customers, we bundle it up as a feature, and that feature we make it available to every one of our customers. And these features are free of price, free of cost. We don't charge for them. So if any tool that attendee might be using is not listed on our website as an integration, just drop us an email. It's well possible that we have it, but that we haven't put it on the website. We might have it as a feature available yet.
Okay. Yep. Thank you, Garrett. So the answer is done. So I don't see any more questions in here. So I will close that session for today. Well, no, I do have another one. So if you don't mind, how is managed the application configuration in Clarive? Where is it stored? For example, database servers and relative password encryption.
We have our own CMDB, where we define our projects and where we define our service, and where we define everything in our own CMDB, and that's the one that we use in our pipeline rules, and that's the one that we update after we have deployed, and that's the one where we keep track of where everything is. So we have our own CMDB. Clarive is based on a MongoDB database, and that's where we store this data in our configuration items.
Okay, wonderful. I hope that actually answered your questions. Let's wait a couple of minutes because the last question just dropped up like this. So if it's okay for you, Gert, if we would like a couple of minutes for you as well, Diego?
Good. Maybe you could share some information on ALM integration, perhaps, of your tool.
Yeah, I just got another question. So, can you give me an executive summary of what Devops is? So, maybe, okay. Yep, go ahead.
So, where Devops is, I guess. Well, it's the way I can answer to that question is looking at one way we usually do that is looking at how organizations are speeding up the delivery process. In other words, you know, how releases are being dropped into production at faster speed, and we're seeing some improvement, but it's still, you know, basically. It's not as fast as we probably would want it to be. So I think more than, you know, about 30% organizations are deploying applications into production monthly or below that, and so, you know, that's a reasonable good outcome. But there's of course still space for improvement because there's a huge number that still deploys applications in production every 6 months or later, or 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And so that's one indication. And the other indication is that I see some organizations doing DevOps transformations separated from agile transformations, and really that is not a good sign, I would say, because these are similar initiatives that need to be eventually one initiative and not two, or if they are kind of two, because I understand sometimes a DevOps initiative on the operations side is all about automation. Well, DevOps, as we saw today, is not just about automation. It's about shared purpose goals between developers and operations folks. It's about, and those goals are business goals. It's about having a streamlined process that works well between the different stakeholders, from business to developers to testers to operations. So there's still quite a lot of work to do, but I would say that I'm starting to get in the position where, like Agile, no organizations that I talk to, I have no organizations that I talk to say, no, we don't have any Agile, right? Everybody's doing some Agile, but has everybody scaled Agile? No, there's still quite a big number of organizations that need to do that. And DevOps is kind of getting in the same position. So the two things, I'm looking at these two areas together. They go hand in hand. So there is, we've got plenty of research that talks about more or less, where organizations are and what they're doing. But there are the unicorns, of course, the unicorn cases of digital organizations that are really moving really fast, right? Deploying features in production in minutes and seconds, and many of them.
Okay. Thank you very much, Diego. I think it covers almost everything. So this was the last question that I have. So I will finish here the webinar. Is that okay? Thank you very much, all of you, for attending. Thank you, Diego. Thank you, Gert, for your time and for all the very nice webinar. So see you next time.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.